Oscar nomination predictions, November 2025. Make sure you subscribe. Okay, folks, it is time for the annual nomination predictions for the month of November, and I'm actually recording this on Thanksgiving Day, just after I just finished watching the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade. It's been about almost 10 minutes since it has ended, but I want to hopefully try to do this before, most of it before I go have my Thanksgiving supper. But anyways, obviously, while the food is cooking and stuff like that for my family, I am here to do my nomination predictions for the month of November. And boy, there's been a lot of changements that had occurred a bit since we have went into the last episode. Obviously, the big catch is, of course, Wicked for Good has finally been released. And many people, and for those people who have stated Act 2 of Wicked is so divisive, yep, that's what has occurred right now with the response for the reception for the movie. So it's now a big, massive question mark. And there are so many other films that now have big, massive question marks, especially since we are going to be getting closer, as of this Thanksgiving recording, to some of the first critic awards, like National Board of Review, New York, and LA. But also we have gotten our other shows that do other nominations, like the Astra Awards, which they're now kind of going more towards a combination of the Golden Globes and the Critics' Choice, because they're obviously doing now the supporting in a comedy or musical and a supporting in a drama over there. And also and they even put some technical categories in their own Creative Art Awards. I think they combine television movies as well, like those two other award shows. So that's what the Astra Awards are feeling like. They just need a television network, and then they would join with this. But also, we will also be getting the first set of nominations from the Film Independent Spirit Awards, the Critics' Choice, and the Golden Globes. I will state this, unlike last year, I might not be able to do a nomination prediction video for the Globes or Critics' Choice, or definitely not any Spirits, but definitely not Critics' Choice or Golden Globes. However, it is interesting that the Critics' Choice have decided for the technical categories to add a short list to it, which that kind of helps, but obviously that's with them not seeing the big movie that will be coming out next month, or this upcoming month, I would say. So, of course, the Golden Globes, I think Critics' Choice nominations will come out first, and then it will be Globes, I'm guessing Indie Spirits, and obviously usually it's December 21st, because that it usually is, but it's on a Sunday, so sometime either the week of, or at least the weekend before Christmas, the Oscar shortlist will have all the last remaining contenders. Now, we do have the official submission/shortlist for Best Animated Feature, so we already got that. But we got our first round for the submission list is for Documentary and International. We might see a first round one of the Visual Effects shortlist maybe soon in the future. But that will obviously be the big thing when we get into some of the technical categories. Now, I have not been predicting any technical categories yet on the awards expert app. I've only have done international feature, pre-shortlist, and animated feature. But I know starting next month, I will start at least doing predictions for at least costume design, production design, and film editing, because they don't have shortlist, and wait for the rest of the categories until this when the shortlist is released. But with some of the Critics' Choice shortlists and some of the Astra nominations, it now leaves some massive question marks for a lot of films, whether they're in or out, especially some that you might not think would be a great candidate, or just simply maybe potential Oscar bait, like Jay Kelly, or that could be coming back, or The Testament of Anne Lee. We don't know where that's at. Begonia seems to be falling off. No Other Choice has a bit of resurgence. And, of course, we have a new independent film really in the big resurgence from Netflix, Train Dreams, which has been kind of mentioned a bit. I think I did have my August predictions, but I don't remember. But that movie has gotten a lot of passion votes at this moment. So yeah, like I said, I will not be doing predictions on the nomination predictions for Critics' Choice or Golden Globes. Definitely not Indie Spirits, unlike I did last year. So if you want to see what my predictions are currently, you can follow me on the Awards Expert app. And that's mainly because I'm kind of focusing on other content I want to do, like continue on the next Oscars tier list video I am planning, which right now hopefully by this release, the project will be kind of halfway through. It will be kind of like the five-part multi thing, like it did with the Best Picture nominees. And also, I have to work on my next Macy's Parade Rank the Songs video, so that's the reason why. So, the last thing I actually want to talk about here, and that is the Governor's Award. Now, obviously, this might not be a true thing or thing, but I don't know if I would call this a potential theory or not, but it really all depends. A large majority of our potential future Oscar nominees were there. I mean, that's the thing. It's like, is it now almost a requirement that if you're going to be nominated for an Oscar this year, you must attend the Governor's Award? I don't know if that's part of an awards campaigning thing, but that's kind of ridiculous, honestly. Like, how many of these people who did not work with either, I forget who that production designer and casting director, actress who it was, but I can understand people like Tom Cruise, like Steven Spielberg, that made sense. But do, do a lot of people from who had never worked with any of these people, do they really have to attend this? Is this part of your awards campaigning strategy? I mean, a lot of the films have done that, like One Battle After Another, Sentimental Value, Sinners. Pretty much, I would say all my 10 candidates for Best Actress were all there. Wicked for Good, even Erivo was one of the presenters, Cynthia Erivo. Maybe a Frankenstein table, like potentially let's see, I don't know about it, and it was just an accident table. I know the stars of K-pop Demon Hunters were there. I don't know about Wagner Moura. Ethan Hawke was there, Hugh Jackman and Kate Hudson. Obviously, I mentioned a lot of the Best Actress candidates. And then who was also there? Oh, well, one notable person is that Timothée Chalamet was not there, like not supporting the Marty Supreme. I know Emily Blunt and Dwayne Johnson did for the Smashing Machine, but Chalamet was not there. That's like the question was there no room for a Marty Supreme table? And James Cameron, I don't think was not there, so there would not be a one for Avatar, but. It's like, is that part of now a requirement for Oscar? If you want to get nominated for an Oscar for this year, you have to attend the Governor's Award. And if you do get nominated, but you did not attend it, you're not going to win the Oscar. That's just a thing. But, like, that would be more of a bigger evidence if Timothée Chalamet would lose the Best Actor Oscar. But I don't think that's not going to happen. But, I mean, if he didn't feel like going to that because it was not required for him, then he just didn't do it. Like, I don't think him missing the Governor Awards is not going to hurt his chances of not also being nominated, but even potentially winning this. So, yeah, so that's the reason why I feel like the Governor's Award is just kind of a pointless campaign strategy thing. If you want a perfect campaign way to do it, don't, like, attend, like, other than you obviously attending, like, festivals and doing QA sessions for your movies, but if you're doing something that is not involving for your movies, for other campaigning things, the Governor's Award should not be one of them. Like, obviously you have, like, the variety actors on actors thing, which I heard that's going to be airing on CNN, of course. There's like a round table that usually does I believe from the Hollywood Reporter that does it. Or you can even just talk about your love of films, like whether it be if Letterboxd gets you to do your top 4 favorite films of all time, or kind of like I would say what Pope Leo XIV kind of did, or go into the Criterion Closet, like what we just saw this week with Wagner Moura's Criterion Collection Closet video was released on the Criterion's YouTube channel. So that's kind of a good example to doing that. The Governor's Award, not a great campaign strategy. It's just like specifically to show Oscar voters, and that's just kind of ridiculous. Like for an example, if I was running in a category like for Best Actor, say, in a big major movie, and if they told me that I would have to attend this award show in order for me to win or get nominated for it, for a show that I do not know if have any involvement with any of the winners that won this event, and if it's just like a requirement for you to do a campaign strategy, I would just say fuck no. I would not go to a ceremony that would just be kind of boring, honestly. Even though, yeah, I know some people have divisiveness when it comes to the honorary awards or the special awards that might just take time from the main ceremony. That is not really the most fun part. So it is kind of a massive debate whether they or they should not be in the ceremony, but I just want to bring that up because it seems kind of a ridiculous campaign strategy. So let's start this up with these predictions and just kind of go through these at a glance. And there have been a couple of changes I made, except for one category to be precise. So for adapted screenplay, I have Hamnet, No Other Choice, One Battle After Another, Train Dreams, and Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Mystery. So, No Other Choice showed up a lot in the shortlist for Critics' Choice in a lot of the technical categories. I think he even did well at the Astro Awards. But I will explain a little bit how I think it will get its highest chance would be adapted screenplay, but it would not be high in the other categories. And I'll explain that once we get into Best Picture, I would say. Train Dreams now feels a little bit more confident for The Passion, I would say. Wake Up Dead Man has fallen a bit off a bit, but then again, not a lot of people have seen it yet, and it's just been out for a couple of theaters across the U.S. before its official release on Netflix. So I did took Begonia out. Frankenstein is a possibility. It's just like I think we might have like the potential 7 candidates at the moment because Wicked for Good is definitely not happening except for WGA, I would say. For original screenplay, I have It Was Just an Accident, Jay Kelly, Marty Supreme, Sentimental Value, and Sinners. I didn't really want to put Jay Kelly in this lineup because obviously, although it has gotten a little bit better reviews, but it's just like something that not a lot of people have been a lot of passion about. But then again, not everyone has seen it yet, and we'll see how it does when it officially comes out, I think next month, I believe, on Netflix. But when I was seeing somebody's a group's prediction video when they were talking about this, it's just like Jay Kelly feels more like a movie for the industry, as like the Oscar bait industry things that obviously kind of follows their thing. It's almost like there's always that one villain, like many people have to say, what is the villain of the Oscar season? Like Amelia Paris, for an example. Would that be Jay Kelly? Some people might say now Wicked for Good because of its reception. I'm not confident in right now on Jay Kelly, but I just have it only getting in for original screenplay. It's just that with it showing up a lot of the Astro Awards and might do decently at Critics' Choice and Golden Globes and the comedy or musical side, I just don't know like where the guild except for SAG and man, this really could be an industry thing. I might really have to put Jay Kelly in Best Picture next month, depending on how the nominations go. But right now, I just have it for original screenplay because we know what the 4 are. Even before Marty Supreme's release, we know what the 4 are. Even though it was just an accident, seems a bit falling off on a lot of critics group nominations, and especially underperforming like at the Astro Awards. But then again, I will talk about how It Was Just an Accident and No Other Choice are kind of completely different voting process when we get to the Best Picture, of course. Supporting Actress is the only category I did not change. It's still Elle Fanning in Sentimental Value, Ariana Grande in her lead performance in Wicked for Good. Let me know in the comments if she's more supporting in this one, more so than the first Wicked, if you've seen Wicked for Good. Igna Espadado Lilius in Sentimental Value, Gwyneth Paltrow in Marty Supreme, I almost said Shakespeare in Love, and Tiana Taylor in One Battle After Another. This is the only one I did not change at all. I'm still predicting the Amy Madigan would just get further than the Globes and Critics' Choice and just miss SAG and maybe not even get BAFTA longlisted, so that's a recent thing. Although Haley Steinfeld had shown a bit of a campaign strategy to get the Governor's Award, but I don't think that's not going to be likely. Supporting actor, I have Benicio del Toro in One Battle After Another, Jacob Elordi in Frankenstein, Paul Mescal in his lead performance in Hamnet, Sean Penn in One Battle After Another, and Stellan Skarsgård in Sentimental Value. So I took Jonathan Bailey out for Wicked for Good. I like with the reception it's got, even though sometimes, yes, sometimes the movie is not a great reception, but an acting nomination can still get in. Like, obviously, examples like this decade, like The United States versus Billie Holiday, The Whale, which won for Best Actor for Brendan Fraser, or Nyad for a great example. So, yeah, even if some critic reactions are not that great, it still could be a possibility they would still get the nomination, and even some, like potentially with Grande, for the potential win. With Frankenstein kind of getting a little bit of a bigger resurgence, I am going now with Jacob Elordi on this one, even though it's still a possibility he might miss, but in some places, like I was saying in the last video, Bill Skarsgård did not get nominated for his performance as Orlok in Nosferatu. Why would Elordi get nominated for his portrayal as Frankenstein's monster? But with the movie kind of getting a lot of bigger resurgence, I do think Elordi is feeling a little bit more confident. But then again, if Jay Kelly really comes back in a resurgence in some of the major ones, would Adam Sandler be a favorite? Or maybe even Sinners with either Miles Caden or Delroy Lindo. So, like, I would say Sandler or Caden could really show up in one of the two places throughout the ceremony, like when we get to Critics' Choice and Globes. But then again, they're not going to really matter as much. But just showing their appearance just show where you have to think of where SAG and specifically SAG is going to go with the acting nominations, because BAFTA, of course, won't help us with their nominations. Best Actress, I ended up going with Jessie Buckley in Hamnet, Cynthia Erivo in Wicked for Good, Renate Reinsve in Sentimental Value, Amanda Seyfried in The Testament of Anne Lee, and Emily Stone in Begonia. With Wicked for Good now being out and its reception, this race is pretty much locked. This is Jessie Buckley's award now to lose. Erivo was probably the massive threat if Wicked for Good was going to be on the same par as the first film, or even better for a lot of the critic receptions. But yeah, I think this race is now pretty much locked. This could be a potential boring Oscar race if my predictions are correct. If it would be a Grande, Mescal, both supporting performances, sweep and leading, and then Buckley obviously is going to be sweeping in Chalamet. Unless if Chalamet loses SAG, because he already won the previous year, even though Mahershala Ali won 2 years his SAG after his first one, so it's a possibility. So yeah, this could be a potential boring acting race of a sweep this season, and it doesn't make it a lot that fun. So yeah, like, probably actor might be the one that may be open, or supporting actor, but I can tell you, when Mescal and Grande, all four of these people, Mescal, Grande, Buckley, and Chalamet, when we get to the next category, once they start winning both Critics' Choice, and then the Golden Globes, and then SAG is probably going to follow that, and then with BAFTA next, and then SAG. Basically, if all four of them win at BAFTA, then it's legit over. If they won Globe, Critics' Choice, and BAFTA, and then they would go on to win at SAG. But then again, I kind of mentioned this, all 10 of my candidates here all showed up at the Governor's Award. Not just, obviously, the 5 I've predicting to get nominated, but you have Sydney Sweeney, Chase Infinity, who's going leading for her supporting performance, Rose Byrne, Kate Hudson, as I mentioned, with her and Hugh Jackman, and Jennifer Lawrence. So, basically, it almost feels like we just now, I cracked the code, and I feel like we might have the short list for Best Actress, if it is a short list for Best Actress, because even though they don't do short lists for the top 8 categories, of course, but if they do a short list for Best Actress and they list the 10, then I cracked the code, because you had to attend the Governor's Award to potentially be a short list finalist. To get in, to be the top 10, to be in the top 5. So yeah, all 10 of these ladies all attended the Governor's Award, so that's your big campaign strategy if you want to get an Oscar nomination for Best Actress, or be on a short list. For Best Actor, I have Timothée Chalamet and Marty Supreme, Leonardo DiCaprio in One Battle After Another, Michael B. Jordan in Sinners, Wagner Moura in The Secret Agent, and Germany Allen White in Springsteen, Deliver Me From Nowhere. So I did brought Germany Allen White back in here. I took Jesse Plemons out last month. I actually did have Ethan Hawke and Blue Moon here at one point. I did. But then I was thinking, well, what else is the movie could be going up for other than Hawke's performance? Maybe like a screenplay nomination or Andrew Scott for supporting actor, but Hawke has been the only one that has been the one that's mentioning for this movie, and nothing really else for it. So that's the big concern I have about with Blue Moon. Even though it's Sony Pictures Classics, but sometimes they either do well or sometimes they don't do well when it comes to campaigning their movies. So it's very debatable. And if Jay Kelly comes in their resurgence, George Clooney could come back. But at the moment, I just went back with Germany Allen White, because the stream I was watching about their discussion of their nomination prediction for Best Actor, it would be if Germany Allen White would get nominated if the Oscars are not tired of the music biopics. Because with The Complete Unknown, Elvis, like, even though Springsteen is definitely not getting in for a picture, maybe not a supporting actor nomination, but it would just depend if Germany Allen White will still have a resurgence, because I do have him at the moment predicting him to get nominated at SAG, because I feel like that is most likely going to happen. So if he shows up, if he fails to get in SAG, then it's a bit concerning. But I think if he would show up at SAG or somehow wins the Drama Globe over Michael B. Jordan or Wagner Moura, then yeah, he is definitely going to get nominated, because they are not tired of the music biopic format. Okay, time for Best Director now. Now, some people might have disagreed with me on my view when I made this comment on the awards expert app, or some people might disagree with me in the comments, even I mentioned in this video. Now, what I mentioned last month, I didn't state it that this was a rule or anything like that, but the thing is, even though I don't know if this is true or not, obviously this is definitely not true, but when I was talking about director last month, I was talking about the potentiality it's a one film per studio thing when it comes to the final nominations, at least for the final 5 nominations. Like, because it's obviously, like I mentioned, nowadays extremely rare for multiple movies from the same studio to get nominated for directing, either 2 or 3 times. And obviously you have Warner Brothers with 2, you have Neon with So Much, you have, I would say, Searchlight with maybe 2, although Bradley Cooper's very unlikely. Focus Features with potentially 2. Netflix with potentially 3, I would say. I don't think Rian Johnson's unlikely, but I'm not thinking about him. It's like some other people. But it's just like, my thing is, I feel like every time if we have a look into this decade so far, it's only been one film per studio thing. And obviously, I did this back when I did my predictions in September. I took Joachim Trier out because I think I added Paul Thomas Anderson in. And then last month I was talking about this thing, and that's why I had to take Ryan Coogler out, because Warner Brothers' #1 nomination for directing is going to be for Paul Thomas Anderson. So that's the thing. It's just like, I already had my Warner Brothers pick, I had my Neon pick, I had, obviously, the female pick, which that's coming from Focus Features, and then I had my kind of independent pick, somewhat, with A24. So, I was kind of, like, down to the 5th slot, because I obviously had to take John M. Chu out, because I don't think that's not going to happen, except for probably Critics' Choice, because they like to nominate 10 people, even though it should be 6, but they're going to probably do 8 or 10 nominees. Like, he managed to win that, and now it probably would have made a lot more sense of him now getting nominated the previous year instead of this year. And, like, John M. Chu definitely would have been a better candidate for a lot of people than James Mangold, or especially Jacques Audiard. Some say Sean Baker, maybe some say Brady Corbet, or some that don't like horror in general would say Corley Rashad. But, yeah, John M. Chu definitely would have made a lot more sense for last year now, because Wicked for Good needed it. They had that better reception, and it didn't. So, I was down to 2. I was obviously not saying the big one yet, because I can't really judge that, not based on Globe or Critics' Choice nominations, but we just have to wait till the movie comes out. So, obviously, I'm not saying James Cameron. That's obviously more of a wait-and-see scenario. So, the only option I had left was potentially, I would say, maybe Netflix's top candidate, and it was see if we might go 2 for 2 for horror. We'll see in the directing category. I think that could happen. So, even though some people think it might, but I just think the one film per studio thing could be the reason why. Even though there's no rule on it, before you comment say, there is no rule. I know that. It's just that I'm just thinking outside of the box and just looking at the previous years, especially this decade. So if you don't know what it is, my directing lineup for November is Guillermo del Toro for Frankenstein, Chloe Zhao for Hamnet, Jafar Panahi for It Was Just an Accident, Josh Safdie for Marty Supreme, and Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another. Although Panahi has not been showing much on the radar yet in the major critic awards, but obviously we talked about with the Palme d'Or movie, Neon movie that wins the Palme d'Or at the Cannes Film Festival, it automatically gets in for directing, except for Titan. I mean, Ruben Östlund managed to get no precursors prior to his nomination for Triangle of Sadness. So if Östlund managed to get in with no precursors, I think Panahi would get in even if he misses places like Globes or Critics' Choice, or even at BAFTA or DGA. I think he will still get in regardless because of this tradition that has been going on, even though it's not really tradition, but this thing has been going on. So yeah, it's just like I think Chloe Zhao and PT are pretty much the confident two that we are looking at. And finally, for Best Picture for November, I have, for at least one more month, depending on how the movie does, Avatar, Fire and Ash, Frankenstein, Hamnet, It Was Just an Accident, Marty Supreme, One Battle After Another, Sentimental Value, Sinners, Train Dreams, and at least for now, Wicked for Good, but I could almost potentially take it out. I actually did at first glance because I was predicting Jay Kelly as the 10th slot, where it would just get a screenplay nomination and picture at the moment, because we have seen this already with the past 3 years where a movie gets screenplay and picture and nothing else, like obviously Women Talking, Past Lives, and Nickel Boys. Right now, at the moment, that's without predicting any technical categories. Right now, I have that with Train Dreams, because I think that's going to get a lot of passion votes in. Kind of like when I'm Still Here got that out of nowhere nomination last year. You can even maybe say the same thing with Nickel Boys. But I'm Still Here's nomination, probably Train Dreams, even though they're not the same movies, but Train Dreams would probably have the bigger passion votes for it to get in. And it would have probably a little bit more technical support, like cinematography or original song. Joe Edgerton's probably far out for Best Actor at the moment, so we'll see where he's going to go. But yeah, we'll see how everything goes next month. And because I know that's the reason I want to mention this about With No Other Choice here, because I have it in the 15th slot right now, because I feel like No Other Choice feels like more of a critics industry thing from Globes and Critics' Choice and Astra voters, and It Was Just an Accident would be more of a bigger industry thing for the bigger actual industry voters, like the Guilds, BAFTAs, and the Oscars. So I can see No Other Choice being the movie that would do well at Globes and Critics' Choice, but once we get into the Guilds and even the BAFTA BAFTAs I can still see them doing well, because they have nominated Park Chan-wook for Best Director, but like, I'm talking about like the main Guilds, if it doesn't really underperform a bit, I could see like, and It Was Just I can see No Other Choice just getting adapted screenplay and nothing else, but I couldn't put it in for picture because I already have 2 Neon films here, because I don't think we're not going to see 3 Neon films, or even 4 if you count The Secret Agent, or even 3 from Netflix, or even, I don't think 4 or even 5, looking at my bottom 20 here. I don't think that's not going to happen. We're not going to see the 3 Warner Brothers movies in this lineup. It's just like, I already got my 2 Netflix picks with Frankenstein and Train Dreams, and I already got my 2 Neon picks with It Was Just an Accident, Sentimental Value, and I got my 2 Warner Brothers picks. We know what the 2 Warner Brothers movies are, with One Battle After Another and Sinners. And then you just have Focus Features with Hamnet, A24 with Marty Supreme, 20th Century Studios with Avatar, and Universal with Wicked for Good. I mean, then you go what? If you go by my predictions here, from numbers 11 to 20 in the Awards Expert app, you got Netflix, Neon, Focus Features, Searchlight. So I would have put Testament of Anne Lee at number 11, but I don't think that might not happen other than Amanda Seyfried and maybe Song and Costume Design. And then you have another Neon film, another Netflix film, another Warner Brothers movie. Then you have A24's If I Had Legs, I'd Kick You, which might be the second pick, I would say, behind them. And then Netflix with K-Pop Demon Hunters, and then Searchlight with Is This Thing On? And then you can say, like, 21 would be Neon's The Life of Chuck, which I don't think it's not in my top 20 anymore. I mean, it got shut out of the Astras, and yeah, it looks like if it doesn't get any support like a Globes or Critics' Choice, it's done. It's pretty much done. So I'm not really confident in my at least confident in at least maybe 7.5, because Train Dreams could still miss, but it's just like, we got to see what James Cameron tells us with Avatar, Fire and Ash. So that kind of wraps up my Oscar nomination predictions for the month of November. We will be back here before the end of the year to do another round of my last round of the top 8 categories before I do all 24 in January. of not also doing a prediction on the top 8 categories, but also looking at all the other nominations of the award shows and the Oscars shortlist.